Hello and welcome to Wehry Dads. I'm your host, PJ Wehry, with my co-host,
Dad.
Oh yeah. And our sponsor today is...
Our sponsor today is book bags. Book bags are very, very, very necessary. And those that don't have book bags will be needy. You got to understand that I can remember being in college. This is, folks, for those that can go back this far. In the 80s, carrying my books around. And if I had a book bag, I think my lifespan would be longer. I think I would. I'm going to lose 3 or 4 years of my life because I had to carry things instead
of overwork, the stress.
And I walked in Greenville, South Carolina with that book bag uphill both ways through the snow.
I thought you didn't have a book bag.
I didn't. I should have had one, I'm saying.
No, I'm just confused.
Books.
Okay.
Honestly,
a great sponsor for today. Thank you.
The truth is, I wish I had a book bag because I had to carry them in my hands in the snow, which only occurred once in Greenville.
So today we're talking about what it means to be the best. And I really appreciate this because our society is obsessed with 15 minutes of fame.
Oh, no. I wouldn't even go far. 15 minutes of fame for who?
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the...
Or 15 minutes of fame for the guys talking about being the GOAT.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to it gets really silly the more you break it down. The whole, and they talk about over and over again because it isn't a great discussion, but it's an interesting discussion because it piques at our envy and our jealousy. LeBron James, Michael Jordan,
right?
Hakeem.
And that's
what
what
have
I
you
was
thought about
thinking,
Kareem? It's just like...
Right. We were talking about all this, and amazing enough, Bill Russell passed away. He has 11 rings. I think that means he had 2 college and the 9 Celtic rings.
No, I think he had 2 as a coach, right?
Oh, could be. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
again, all
coach.
I know is that Bill Russell was a great basketball player, but it doesn't matter. This is what I really want to talk about. And some people are saying, wow, this is a different direction. But this is the whole theme. I think the Bible talks about this. Comparing ourselves among ourselves, we're not wise. Okay?
Yes.
So with that said, what's the opposite of wise?
That's foolish. Well, and this is, I want to, because I know what you meant by just like when you talk about Bill Russell. What's important about Bill Russell isn't whether he is the GOAT or not. It is his legacy, right? So when you say like, it's not important to find out if he's the best ever. It's not important even how many rings he had. The reason they're retiring his number is because of what he did. Right?
And which was many things, including breaking a racial barrier. Now, he wasn't the first, but he took all the hits, and there was a lot to that. And this is really the whole direction of this podcast, because some of you might be going, I think we get stuck in this world by the very nature of media, because there's really 2 outlets about news, and all those different things, of comparing, of saying, instead of saying, this is who I am, and my responsibility is to not be the best at it, but to be the best I can be at it. This is where my passion is, aka mentoring and discipling and motivating and encouraging others. I don't have to worry about being better than anyone else. I need to be the best version of me. And then we go back to what we were talking about on a previous podcast. When we talk about you still need God's grace and so forth, like this is God working in me. We have to take who we are and allow God to and be broken in our life to allow God to do the work in our life so that we can impact others. And that's what I feel God's called me to do. Whatever God's called you to do, just be the best version of you. That's really where we're going.
Yeah. And I think, so when we talk about comparing, stop comparing yourself to other people, learn from other people.
Yes.
But the better way is to compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And to be honest, that's also on the upswing. And this is a thing that I like to read. And when I really get going, I can read a lot when I'm disciplined and so forth. And I've been really frustrated because I haven't been in that swing of things where I've been reading And some of that is the season of my life. So when I compare in one short category, like, oh man, I used to read X amount of books a week, a year ago. And now I'm barely reading a book a week, right? And I'm like, that doesn't fit with my goals. I'm frustrated. And some of you are like, you're a nerd. And
I try to read 2 books a week.
Right. But what happened? Well, I look at, we're having a baby. I was part of a hospital emergency for a week kind of thing. And we had roaches in the house, and we had the AC went out, the internet went out. And I'm like, oh, okay. We also, when we compare ourselves to ourselves, we have to recognize our inability, and we have to recognize that this is not our home. I've had 3 different interviews on like the medical side of things on Chasing Leviathan that have talked about 2 really in particular. One on the philosophy of disability. It was in some ways gut-wrenching. Yep. Another one was the best man for my wedding, who's now the first hospice chaplain in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And this idea of wholeness that we idolize. And it's like, I mean, it's silly. And we just don't think about it. We're like, I want to be healthy. And we have this kind of picture of health in our mind when we say that. And I look at it, and the last time we had a kid, I was having jaw problems, and I cracked a tooth, and they had to remove a tooth the day that Becky Sue went to labor. It's very exciting. I'm never going to get that tooth back. I will always not be whole. And we all have scars, and everyone has, at the very least, if you are extremely lucky and you have perfect health, you will still age.
Right. And there's going to be deterioration. What you have to do then,
yes,
and the reason PJ is bringing up, is whoever you are, be the best you can be.
Yes.
There are limitations to people.
Yes.
We could even go into the whole, like, there's some, like, it's the old adage, I want to play in the NBA. Like, and I could work all day long on it, but I'm not athletic enough. I'm not tall enough. And I'm not,
I think it was Kyrie Irving who said it. And I hadn't really thought about this. I think he said there's like a total of like maybe 3,000 people who have ever played in the NBA.
Right.
Ever over like, you know what I mean? It's like, there's not a lot of guys.
It's probably more, but I don't know what the number is, but yeah. That's probably not the best, for us to go there. PJ, did a good job picking me up there. But the truth is, whatever you are doing, don't worry about what others are doing. Focus on yourself. And coaches say this, and it's really true. Try to grow 1% a day. And I'll be honest with you, that's almost impossible too. Yeah. You just think about how long it takes for you to grow as a human being. Here's the truth. You mentioned about reading. I do a lot of counseling on leadership and organization and administration, which when I was 22, 23, I might have been a gifted, but not mature leader. Okay. But I had zero organization and administration skills, very little. Okay. Only in things I really liked. All right. But that has taken off. Well, how did that happen? Well, I'm 60 now.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of reading, a lot of studying. I tried different tools.
Yeah.
Experience
matters. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not worried about, am I better than this guy? Yeah. I want to be the best version of me. The only thing that could be a struggle there is sometimes I still am not satisfied, which is in some ways very good, in some ways not so good. Because you got to be at peace with, okay, this is where I'm at.
And I love that you mentioned that, because there is this idea of just continually getting better and getting more mature. And I think from a spiritual side, that's something you can always work on. And then the same thing you're talking about there is also true, though, is that we have to live with the end in mind. And the truth is, like, you're not as good at golf, or you're certainly not as good at basketball. You know what I mean? And your golf game is going to deteriorate.
You can choose either one.
But it's like, that's what, I'm recognizing. I'm like, I have a small span where I'm like going to be physically fit. And then I have to start prepping my body for aging and
that's
aging
what's going
gracefully.
On. Right. It is for me. And like, okay, there's things I cannot, I'll never forget your brother. The dog ran out the back door, and Drew was probably 13 or 14. He ran after him. And I looked at your mom and said, do you wish you could still do that? Like, I could not bolt out the door like that.
Yeah.
But I can be better at other things, especially the wisdom. This is what Proverbs talks about, the hoary hair, the gray hair, understanding. But I will say this. It's really good you say that too, because my memory, for people that know me, that I'm mocked incessantly for remembering non-essential details to stories and so forth. But the truth is, I've thought about this, especially watching my mom and dad get old. When I'm 75, will I forget names and stuff? Like, I remember details. If I meet a coach, I'll then go down the road and go, oh, you know that guy, this guy, this guy, this guy? Yeah. And people kind of are stunned. I remember things like that. I'm not going to. And will I be disgusted? Will I be willing to accept that with grace? Today's whole podcast is, you're the goat already. Just be the best goat you can be.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that cannot be taken from you is your character, right? And then the rest of it are
unless I
skills
get so
you should
old,
grow.
I start throwing things, and then, or I might do that and then say it's because I'm older.
I mean, C.S. Lewis talks about, like, there are some people that we expect to have like crowns in heaven that God's just like, no, I just gave them really good digestion. And this is actually, again, this is scary to me, but Eric Liddell, was everyone's like just the most positive person, always praising the Lord. And then the last 6 months of his life, he became really mean and he became really depressed. And then they found out he had brain cancer. He was in a Chinese prison camp and he died, which, sorry, real downer. But the thing is he couldn't fully control that, right? It was the point with all of this is you want to be the best that you can be. And you want to compare yourself to where you were yesterday, and you want to grow in your skills. You want to grow in your character.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you also have to recognize that, one, you are you. God made you with your particular gifting. You're not going to be LeBron James.
Right.
LeBron James is something special in his own right. And you have to also recognize that it's going to be broken here on earth. And so you're going to make mistakes. And that's where we have to receive grace, going back to what we talked about last episode.
I think this is really good. I think I would love for every one of you all to just be reminded of James chapter 1. And I think it's more in depth spiritually, but the analogy is still there. You just look in the mirror and say, God, help me to be who I'm supposed to be to the best of my ability to be today for your glory. And hope this is encouraging to each of you. Don't get stuck worrying about being the best in the business. Be the best version of you for God's glory.
Love you, Dad.
Love you too. See you.